Imagine you are sitting alone in a dark, quiet room, the only illumination coming from the cold, blue glow of your bank account on a computer screen. You finally hit that massive $2 million savings goal you chased relentlessly for 10 agonizing years. But instead of the promised relief, a crushing weight of profound emptiness instantly settles deep in your chest. You look around the silent, meticulously decorated house and suddenly realize what this staggering number actually cost you in human terms. You traded your healthiest years, your irreplaceable family dinners, and your daily capacity for joy to a quiet, invisible thief that promised you ultimate freedom, but instead locked you inside a psychological cage of your own deliberate making. This dark psychological trap is meticulously set for all of us before we even know how to count our first coins. From the time we are small children watching television screens, we are fed a simple, highly dangerous lie engineered by marketers insisting that accumulating more money always equals an impenetrable shield of safety and lasting, unshakable happiness. But the underlying mechanics of this financial game are completely rigged against you from the very first paycheck. The rules are carefully designed by a consumer-driven economy so that the finish line constantly moves further away with every promotion, ensuring you stay trapped on a high-speed treadmill and never actually win the ultimate prize of mental peace. This brings us to a profound and deeply unsettling mystery of human desire that behavioral economists have studied for decades. Why does a vast sum of money, a specific six-figure number you once dreamed about night after night, suddenly feel exactly like worthless loose change the very moment it finally clears the bank and hits your personal account? You step blindly into a dark psychological void where the basic math of your life no longer makes any logical sense. Researchers call this the arrival fallacy, a cruel neurological trick where, no matter how impossibly high the numbers climb, the endless pile of cash simply cannot fill the deep, aching, existential hole carved inside your own mind. The chilling result is an entire human life spent running at full speed toward a shimmering mirage that fades into dust right when you reach out to touch it. This perpetual chase floods your nervous system with toxic levels of cortisol, accelerating your physical aging while you exhaust yourself pursuing a phantom metric that offers absolutely no real shelter. The shocking twist in this tragic story is that your endless, gnawing hunger for more is not just a symptom of natural human greed. It is a deep, artificially cultivated fear planted inside you by a multi-billion-dollar advertising apparatus that constantly studies your insecurities and weaponizes the world around you to keep you feeling chronically inadequate. The global economic system we live in actually feeds and rapidly grows on your quiet, constant panic of never having quite enough resources to survive the winter. It takes your most basic, primal human need to protect your family and twists that beautiful instinct into a sharp, heavy weapon used relentlessly against your own exhausted mind. Think of modern consumer culture as a massive, chilling, covert operation happening right in front of your unsuspecting eyes every single day. Unseen algorithmic forces use every glowing screen, every highway billboard, and the smartphone vibrating in your pocket to quietly plant fake, manufactured needs deep into the vulnerable centers of your brain. Step by step, this highly coordinated psychological operation makes you genuinely believe that you are always exactly one luxury purchase away from being truly safe and unconditionally loved. It is a brilliant, entirely dark trick specifically designed to slowly drain your wallet, inflate your lifestyle, and keep you working grueling hours until you physically drop. This invisible, relentless campaign turns your own natural desires into thick, invisible strings that pull you like a helpless puppet across the stage of your own life. By hijacking your dopamine receptors, the system ensures that the brief thrill of buying something new evaporates almost instantly, forcing you to immediately swipe your credit card again just to feel normal. You can clearly see the brutal, undeniable evidence of this dark operation scattered throughout the wreckage of your own daily routine. Just look closely at the deeply lost balance between the thousands of stressful hours you work each year and the fleeting, fragmented hours you actually spend living, breathing, and experiencing the world outside of your office. It is the deeply unsettling feeling of missing your child's 8 o'clock bedtime, skipping crucial family dinners, and losing those quiet, irreplaceable Sunday morning moments. You unknowingly traded all of those priceless, fleeting memories for a few extra dollars to buy depreciating assets and useless status symbols you never actually needed in the first place. The dusty files of history are packed with the chilling, cautionary profiles of victims who fell completely into this bottomless trap of endless accumulation. These are people who ruthlessly built massive, towering corporate fortunes over decades of cutthroat behavior, only to end up entirely alone, coughing their last breaths in the master bedrooms of cold, empty, heavily guarded mansions. Their brilliant minds were completely broken by the crushing, 24-hour stress of fiercely guarding their accumulated wealth and constantly obsessing over how to double it by the next fiscal quarter. They undeniably won the brutal money game, but in the process, they permanently lost everything that actually makes a human life worth living in the first place. The tragic, inevitable aftermath leaves a highly predictable trail of broken families, estranged children, and shattered cardiovascular health, proving time and time again that absolute wealth often buys absolute misery. The coroner reports of the ultra-rich frequently tell a grim story of stress-induced heart attacks and a final existence entirely devoid of genuine human warmth. But there is a hidden, highly effective cure that was carefully kept from us by the architects of this system, an ancient tool known as the philosophical concept of enough. Defining your own personal, immovable stopping point is not a sign of surrender or giving up, but rather a powerful, radical weapon forged for your own psychological survival. There is a hidden cure that was systematically kept from us for a very long time by an economy built on perpetual dissatisfaction. It is the simple, calculated idea of enough. This is not about giving up, lowering your standards, or being lazy. It is a very old and powerful psychological tool used for survival in environments of extreme scarcity. When you finally decide exactly how much money and resources you actually need, you build an impenetrable shield around your daily life. You permanently stop the endless bleeding of your time, your focus, and your physical energy. Drawing that firm, mathematically precise line in the sand is the only proven way to stop the relentless drain on your life. Financial psychologists note that without a defined endpoint, the human mind defaults to infinite accumulation, trading irreplaceable hours for depreciating assets. Establishing this boundary halts the parasitic extraction of your most valuable resource, which is your time. But a dark, lingering question remains for behavioral economists studying this phenomenon. Why do so few people ever actually use this protective tool? The unsettling truth is that we are deeply afraid to calculate and find our actual target number. We are terrified to sit down, look at the brutal math, and realize we might already possess exactly what we need to finally stop running on the treadmill. There is a chilling, psychological unknown waiting for us if we actually stop working so hard and step off the corporate ladder. Without the constant, deafening noise of the daily grind and the dopamine hits of inbox notifications, we have to sit in the quiet dark. We are forced to face who we really are without our prestigious job titles, without our manufactured busy schedules, and without the expensive distractions that deliberately keep us numb to our own reality. The trap goes much deeper than just a simple fear of the unknown. Our very own neurobiology has been systematically hacked by the constant promise of getting more. Every single time we see a bigger paycheck hit our bank account or buy a shiny new luxury item, our brains release a massive rush of dopamine. The nucleus accumbens, the reward center of the human mind, lights up exactly as it would for a chemical substance. We become totally, physiologically addicted to the endless hunt for more money and higher status. A perfectly natural evolutionary drive to gather food, secure shelter, and stay safe through the winter has been deliberately twisted into a never-ending behavioral sickness. We keep hunting and hoarding capital long after our financial shelves are completely full, driven blindly forward by a synthetic chemical hunger that can never actually be satisfied by another dollar. This invisible chemical trap forces us to keep running on the consumer wheel until we physically and mentally drop. Medical researchers track the rising rates of stress-induced heart disease and chronic burnout among high earners, proving that this biological hijacking carries a lethal cost. The mechanism of constant desire overrides our internal warning systems, pushing the human body far past its natural breaking point. Consider the heavily documented, tragic profile of the modern corporate executive who gave up absolutely everything to build a massive, impenetrable pile of money. He worked late into the night for 20 straight years, entirely missing his children growing up and permanently ruining his own cardiovascular health. He falsely believed that reaching a net worth of $5 million would finally make him feel secure, respected, and loved by those around him. But the anticipated moment of ultimate victory was completely, devastatingly hollow. He finally turned the brass key and unlocked the heavy oak door to his massive 10,000 square foot dream house in the suburbs. As he walked across the imported marble floors, the only sound he heard was his own footsteps echoing sharply in the empty, pristine rooms, because his exhausted family had quietly packed up and left him a decade ago. The great financial prize he methodically destroyed his entire life to win turned out to be nothing more than a highly decorated, incredibly lonely cage. The wealth that was supposed to purchase his ultimate freedom instead became the exact instrument of his permanent isolation. He had successfully optimized his bank accounts while completely bankrupting every meaningful human connection he ever possessed. This specific, predictable tragedy is exactly what the modern economic system wants to happen. The machinery of consumer society works very hard, spending billions on targeted advertising algorithms to hide the real mathematical truth about financial freedom. Over the last 70 years, the original meaning of true wealth was quietly, deliberately erased from the public consciousness and seamlessly replaced with an incredibly profitable lie. Wealth historically used to mean having total autonomy over your schedule and abundant free time to spend with the people you love. But the architects of the modern world changed the rules of the game in the dark. They successfully tricked us into believing that wealth strictly means owning depreciating luxury cars, maintaining heavily mortgaged mega mansions, and hoarding piles of manufactured goods we do not actually need to survive. We willingly traded our most precious, strictly limited hours on this earth for mass-produced objects that only collect dust in rented storage units. The average worker sacrifices over 90,000 hours of their single, unrepeatable life just to finance a lifestyle designed by marketing executives. We bleed out our finite existence to purchase temporary status symbols that lose their value the moment we bring them home. Then comes the sudden, terrifying psychological moment of finally waking up from the consumer trance. A person stops running for just one single second and truly looks around at the suffocating, cluttered life they built. The crushing, empirical truth hits them like a violent physical blow to the chest. The endless, desperate chase for more money and higher status does not lead to any measurable form of happiness at all. They clearly see that the terrifying monster of poverty they were frantically running from was often just a fake, exaggerated shadow painted on the corporate wall. The whole consumer game was an elaborate psychological trick designed specifically to keep them working, spending, and borrowing. In that quiet, profoundly shocking moment of clarity, the grand illusion of the American dream shatters into a million jagged pieces. To permanently escape this engineered trap, you must aggressively build a new, mathematically sound reality. True financial freedom is not a giant mythical mountain of gold hidden away in a Swiss bank vault. It is a very specific, carefully calculated line drawn firmly in the dirt of your own life. You have to sit down with your bank statements, look objectively at your actual existence, and find the exact annual dollar amount that covers your basic survival needs and your simple, unpretentious joys. Drawing this firm, uncompromising line changes absolutely everything about how you interact with your world. It acts as a heavy, reinforced iron door slamming shut against the endless, parasitic demands of a hyper-capitalist society. Once you finally calculate and know your real objective number, you immediately stop the daily bleeding of your time and decisively take your life back from the industrial machine. Knowing exactly what constitutes enough is no longer just a philosophical concept. It is a critical survival strategy. It serves as the ultimate, impenetrable weapon against a predatory economic world that relentlessly demands absolutely everything you have to give. By defining your own finish line, you strip the system of its power, ensuring that your remaining years belong entirely to you, rather than to the endless pursuit of more. Stepping off the endless track feels like stepping into the dark. The moment the constant rushing stops, a deep and unsettling panic sets in. It is a sudden, sharp fear of standing still while the rest of the world races by. People who try to walk away from the chase report a harsh shock to their system, a feeling that they are doing something terribly wrong just by resting. This quiet space brings a chilling new dread. It is the fear of the eyes next door, the heavy weight of neighbors and friends judging a life that no longer looks busy or successful. Without the shield of a packed schedule and new things to show off, a person feels naked and exposed. The silence of not wanting more is deafening, and it tricks the mind into thinking it has lost its worth. This painful shock of stopping is the first true test for anyone trying to break free. But those who survive the quiet soon find a powerful weapon to fight back. They start using their money to match their deepest, most honest truths, rather than the loud demands of the crowd. This is not just a gentle change in habit, but a direct attack on the machine that keeps people wanting more. Every dollar spent on what truly matters acts like a bright light, cutting right through the dark lies of the endless chase. Tracking these real values destroys the grand illusion. When a person writes down exactly what brings them joy, the fake needs created by the system simply vanish. The shiny cars and big houses lose their grip on the mind. The realization hits hard that the things we are told we must buy are just traps, designed to keep us running forever. Armed with this clear vision, the world of endless buying suddenly looks like a dusty, empty stage. There are quiet stories hidden in plain sight, tales of people who intentionally chose to have less. They are the ones who walked away from the big promotions and the heavy debts, vanishing from the radar of normal life. These escapees traded the loud, stressful chase for a profound, unbroken peace. They live simply, often in small homes with quiet routines, entirely unseen by the frantic world around them. While their former friends continue to run themselves into the ground, these survivors watch from the outside. They see the exhaustion and the fear in the eyes of those still trapped in the cycle. The escapees have found a secret that the system tries desperately to hide. They prove that true safety does not come from having everything, but from needing almost nothing. Their hidden, peaceful lives stand as the ultimate proof that the trap can be beaten. Yet, walking away brings a strange and unsettling danger. There is a dark mystery in how society turns against those who simply say they have enough. A culture that claims to love freedom deeply hates the people who are truly free. Friends pull away, and families whisper in worried tones, treating the choice to stop buying as if it were a sickness. The grim truth is that a person who needs nothing is seen as a threat. The entire system relies on fear and hunger to keep the wheels turning. When someone steps out of line and refuses to play the game, they hold up a mirror to the trap everyone else is still stuck in. Society punishes them with cold shoulders and harsh words, trying to force them back into the endless, exhausting race. This bitter anger from the crowd is the price of leaving the illusion behind. For those who stay in the race, the hidden cost is paid in flesh and bone. The constant stress of chasing more does real physical damage to the human body. Hearts wear out faster and minds crack under the heavy weight of endless bills and moving finish lines. The hunt for wealth acts like a slow poison, stealing away the very years of life it was supposed to make better. The grim reality is a trail of people working themselves to death. They trade their health, their sleep, and their peace of mind for numbers on a screen that will never be high enough. The body keeps a strict score of every late night and every panicked morning. By the time they realize the damage is done, the trap has already taken the best parts of who they are. The human body simply breaks under the weight of a race that never stops. But deep within the numbers lies the most shocking revelation of all. When the smoke clears and the real math is done, the actual amount needed for a safe, joyful life is terribly small. It is a fraction of the massive fortune the culture told us we had to hoard. The terrifying monster of poverty that kept everyone running was mostly a shadow on the wall, made huge by a trick of the light. This brings an unsettling, heartbreaking truth into the light. Many of the tired, broken people running the race actually crossed their finish line years ago. They already had enough to be free, But the system blinded them to it. They kept running, bleeding away their time and health, entirely unaware that the cage door had been wide open all along. Finding this true small number causes an instant shock to the system. The moment a person realizes they no longer have to fight just to survive, their brain begins to rewire itself. A sudden, terrifying clarity washes over them, washing away decades of built-up panic. The heavy fog of fear lifts, leaving behind a stark, quiet view of a life that finally belongs to them. When you finally calculate that definitive target number and see it written on paper, something fundamental inside your brain chemistry changes forever. A sudden, shocking wave of cognitive clarity washes away years of blind, adrenaline-fueled panic. You realize, in one quiet heartbeat, that you no longer have to fight a daily battle just to keep your head above water. The primal survival switch flips off, and the amygdala stops processing every new morning as an immediate financial threat. This profound psychological shift leaves the old, paralyzing fears dead in the dust. Clinical studies of chronic stress show that removing the constant threat of poverty allows the nervous system to finally repair itself. The physiological damage caused by years of financial anxiety begins to reverse, leaving you standing in a startlingly calm reality where the future is no longer a looming predator. The physical air in the room suddenly feels lighter as a measurable, crushing weight falls off your chest. For the first time in perhaps decades, you can just sit completely still in a quiet house without the nagging, internalized voice of corporate hustle telling you to work harder. The endless ringing of client phones, the frantic email alerts, and the grueling late nights at the desk finally fade into a profound, lasting silence. You systematically start to take back the thousands of hours that the modern economic system previously stole from you. You are finally physically and mentally present to watch your children play in the yard, truly seeing their faces instead of staring blankly at a glowing spreadsheet. The evenings belong entirely to you again, permanently safe from the cold, suffocating grip of the endless industrial grind. Taking back those lost hours inevitably reveals a grim, uncomfortable truth about the past you just survived. When the fog of perpetual busyness lifts, the wreckage of your former lifestyle becomes impossible to ignore. The collateral damage of your relentless pursuit of wealth is suddenly laid bare under a harsh, unforgiving light. Looking back at the brutal reality of how you used to live is a deeply haunting exercise. You see the lingering ghosts of canceled family dinners, neglected friendships, and quiet moments of peace that you willingly threw into the fire of ambition. You burned all of that irreplaceable time on the altar of wanting more, blindly believing the consumerist lies the financial world systematically fed you. It is a chilling, visceral shock to calculate the true human cost of those lost years. You realize with sickening clarity that you traded the most vibrant days of your physical prime for disposable consumer goods that never mattered, accumulating chronic stress that only made you physically ill. The lingering memory of that blind, desperate chase leaves a permanent cold feeling deep in your bones. But staring directly into the abyss of that dark past is exactly what finally breaks the psychological chains. Confronting the sheer waste of your own energy destroys the illusion that more money equals more happiness. Acknowledging the profound damage of the endless hustle is the crucial catalyst that permanently severs your emotional connection to the rat race. Once you step securely over that hidden mathematical line of having enough, the fundamental rules of the economic game change completely. You no longer wake up at dawn and commute to work because you are terrified of losing everything to a sudden layoff or a medical emergency. Instead, you start making deliberate, calculated choices based entirely on what actually matters to your core values. Money immediately loses its dark, coercive power to dictate your every waking move. It instantly transforms from being a cruel, demanding master that whips you forward into a quiet, obedient tool sitting idly in the shed. You are finally sitting in the driver's seat of your own existence, and the paralyzing fear of going bankrupt is no longer holding the map or dictating the destination. This new, quiet psychological strength completely changes how you physically walk through the world. Financial independence creates an invisible armor against the manipulative marketing tactics and artificial scarcities designed to keep consumers perpetually anxious. You move through society with a grounded certainty, entirely immune to the manufactured panics that once dictated your daily spending habits. Then comes the most chilling and powerful revelation of the entire investigative journey into wealth. True financial freedom was never actually about hitting a massive eight-figure number in an offshore bank account or a brokerage portfolio. It is entirely a fortified state of mind, a deeply constructed mental wall that effectively keeps the endless madness of consumer culture securely locked outside. True wealth is simply possessing the raw, unadulterated power to look at the endless economic fear of the modern world and firmly say no. It is the absolute freedom to turn your back on the loud, flashing corporate signs that demand you keep running on the treadmill. You realize with startling clarity that the psychological cage door was always unlocked, and you just had to make the conscious decision to push it open. Stepping out of that open cage puts you in a very strange, almost alien psychological landscape. You are no longer participating in the collective delusion that drives the global economy, making you an outsider in a society entirely built on perpetual dissatisfaction. The quiet space outside the cage is peaceful, but it is also deeply isolating when everyone else is still frantically running inside. You walk down a busy city street and feel an eerie chill as you observe the frantic crowds rushing around you. It is a profoundly cold feeling to watch thousands of people who are still caught in the exact same debt trap you just managed to escape. You see the chronically tired eyes, the tense jaws, and the exhausted posture of workers running a financial race they are mathematically guaranteed to lose. You sit at holiday family dinners and quietly watch people you deeply love tear their health apart for a tiny annual raise or a heavily financed new car. They fight and bleed for depreciating assets they do not actually need, driven relentlessly by a cultural ghost they cannot even see. You are standing safely in a quiet clearing, watching the rest of the industrialized world burn in a massive, self-sustaining forest fire of unchecked greed. Watching them suffer through this endless cycle of earning and burning is a grim, daily reminder of the dark reality you finally left behind. Their exhaustion serves as a stark warning about the sheer power of lifestyle inflation and the danger of tying human worth to a credit score. It reinforces the absolute necessity of maintaining your newly established boundaries. But calculating your exact point of enough is not the end of the story. It is merely the opening sequence of an entirely new psychological battle. Every single day, you have to actively fight to protect that quiet mental space from the creeping, persuasive shadows of the consumer culture waiting just outside your door. You must aggressively guard your mind at all times because the trillion-dollar economic system will always try to drag you kicking and screaming back into the dark. Finding your stopping point is not the end of the story. It is the start of a daily war. Every time you turn on a screen or walk down a street, unseen forces try to pull you back into the trap. You must guard your mind every single day against the creeping shadows of a culture that wants you to buy more. They need you to feel empty so they can sell you the cure. This quiet fight leaves a real mark on the world. Years ago, a small group of workers started a strict math system to track every penny they saved. By cutting their spending in half, they proved that a normal worker could buy their freedom decades before normal retirement age. This was not just a passing trend. It changed how banks look at normal savings accounts. Today, major financial firms are forced to offer tools that help people plan for early escapes, not just endless work. The math they left behind became a permanent map for anyone trying to break out of the endless cycle of earning and spending, but the escape leaves deep scars on the families who choose it. When a person stops buying things to fit in, they often lose the friends who are still trapped in the game. Dinner parties stop happening, and weekend trips fade away. One father in Ohio reached his savings goal and quit his stressful job at age 40. He gained all his time back, but he found himself sitting alone in a quiet house. The group he built around spending money vanished overnight, leaving a cold silence where his old life used to be. The shockwaves of this choice reach far beyond lonely homes. In 2019, researchers at a university in London looked at what happens to the earth when people stop chasing more. They studied towns where families chose to work less and buy less. The findings were a shock to the system. The records showed a massive drop in waste and energy use in those specific areas. By simply deciding they had enough money, these small groups of people accidentally created one of the most powerful ways to heal the environment. The choice to stop chasing wealth became a quiet weapon against global ruin. Yet, a dark question still hangs over this entire idea. If everyone suddenly woke up and decided they had enough, what would happen to the world? Our entire way of living is built on the endless hunger for new things. No economic record or expert can say for sure how a country survives if its people stop wanting more. If the buying stops, the factories close, and the jobs disappear. The mystery remains whether human society can actually function without the invisible engine of human greed pushing it forward. Because of this threat, the system fights back with new rules. Over the last decade, advertising laws have quietly changed to allow more tracking of human behavior. Companies now use advanced computer programs to watch every click and search you make. They use this stolen data to build a custom trap just for you. The result is a new kind of digital prison where the ads you see know your deepest fears and secret wishes. This legal shift means the forces trying to make you spend money are now inside your pocket, watching you day and night. This unseen war leaves everyday people exhausted and confused. A mother trying to save for her child finds herself fighting a billion-dollar machine designed to break her willpower. The heavy cost of this battle is paid in lost sleep and constant worry, as families realize their own minds have become the main target in a never-ending hunt. The small paper notebook sits closed on the kitchen table, its final line drawn in dark ink. Outside, the sun fades behind the silent street, casting long shadows that no longer feel like a ticking clock. The endless hunt for more is over. The unseen thief of time has been locked out for good, not by winning a brutal race, but by simply walking away from the starting line. In the deep, heavy quiet that follows, real freedom finally takes a breath.